Just wanted to touch on a few different points regarding the coming invasion of Panama from Venezuela. A lot of people coming to the channel have made this assertion that U.S. military power and prowess would prevent the Venezuelans from doing anything like this. And I think what that comes from is seeing things through an American point of view. There are some things going on in South America and other parts of the world that make this calculation a lot more complex than what you would think it is. It's not a matter of, do the Venezuelans think their planes are better than ours, or do they think their tanks are better than ours? It's not that simple. It has to do with political will, and it has to do with the risk-reward calculation that would be done by any government, small or large, in any type of event like this. And I just want to walk through a few things today to show you the line of thinking and where I'm coming from now. Having been stationed down there and having spent time down there, I have a little bit more of an insight into the people down there. And those of you who come to the channel who have been contributing that are either from there can probably attest to a lot of what I'm about to say. The Catholic Church is very, very, very important. The idea of Christianity is very, very important to Latin America, much more than it is here in the U.S. in modern times. This article I have up here talks about the running out of fuel for air travel, and this is from Pan Am Post, but just wanted to cover one thing down here that they say in this memo that they've leaked from PDVSA. The critical inventory level of gasoline that they speak of is because they have a reserve that they're not touching. And it says right here, supervisor for the aviation fuel supply plant in the eastern city of Barcelona asked that all aircrafts fill up their tanks at the time of departure. We suggest that all aircraft that use this product fill their tanks at the airports with sufficient AV gas upon their departures, since we will not be able to maintain a supply in the future, he said in the memo. He also said that the remaining AV gas fuel has been set aside as a reserve. A reserve for what? Could it be that they have a plan for a military event coming forth that they're going to need these reserves for, that they're not going to touch, and that the idea of private air travel doesn't rise to the level of importance as this coming military operation? Now, there's also things in this Venezuela, oil-producing country with 18 refineries of its own, 6 in country, the other 12 in other parts of the world. But they, of course, have issues down there. Refineries operating at around 40% capacity. I think they're just going to see that come way up now that they have a deal with the Russians. But back to the idea of the church. And I know that a lot of you think, what does that have to do with politics? This article here is from Columbia Reports, and I think it gives the graphic that can maybe bring a lot of you that are doubting me about this coming event kind of closer. I'm not really trying to change anybody's mind here. I really want people to just think for themselves with all of the information available. The Bible even says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. I'm not trying to indoctrinate anybody. I want people to have all of the knowledge possible so that they can make their own decision. Here's the thing, right here. 74% of Colombians are Catholics. 16% are Protestants, and 10% are, I don't even know who they're talking about, that 10%. Maybe people that didn't understand the poll. That's all I can think, because there is nothing but Christianity down there. Now, of course, there are in Venezuela, the Hezbollah operatives, and I'm sure that would, when you talk about 8 or 10,000 people in countries of millions and millions of people, they make up just tiny fractions of the percent. But the vast majority of the thinking down there is right in line with the modern Catholic Church. To see numbers like this in the modern world of the United States, you would have had to go back hundreds of years to see this. And even when the Church of England came, the people came and settled Jamestown. Florida, for example, wasn't even part of the U.S. Revolution. This was all Spanish, heavily Roman Catholic, all the way through the time of the Revolution and after. So it's, and down here, and this just kind of puts a point on this. You're looking at almost everybody down there would, by our definition, be a Baptist, a Pentecostal, basic Christian belief. Jesus Christ is the Son of God, sins can be forgiven, the Virgin Mary. And then when you look at these other things, extraterrestrial life, all this kind of thing, when you have this level of religious belief and that they look at the Bible as the ultimate authority on things, they're not going to use rational thought to make decisions in something like an invasion of Panama when they support the government. Because when you look at the church is a very socialist operation. It's a very, what we would call, from each according to his ability, to each according to his need. I can pull up a bunch of scriptures in the Bible that would go right along with that. So it's something that you have to understand. These people see the world a different way than we see it. And I think, honestly, they would believe that it would be good for the Panamanians to be pushed away from, if they need to be, forcibly away from the U.S. and toward their way of thinking and the way of believing, much like the Nicaraguans and the El Salvadorians and Hondurans and everyone else, the Venezuelans down there, that it's they have juxtaposed two things together, Christianity and socialism. And they have a lot of scriptures to back themselves up. Now, also, on the political side of this argument, you have this. And this isn't Venezuela's idea of what they think they have. This is pretty much general consensus about the amount of oil that is available to be gotten out of that country. And if the U.S. is going to distance itself from Central and South America, and it has done so, the current administration has made no bones about it wanting to distance itself from Mexico, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Venezuela. These things, they said, look, they're either going to believe and think like we do, or we're not going to have anything to do with them. That's pretty much the idea from the administration. There are going to be people step in just because of that issue right there and say, hey, you know what? We agree with you no matter what. And we're seeing it from the Russians, and we're seeing it from the Chinese. And the first thing that they're going to need to have to be able to do is to be able to get that oil out of the ground and transport it back to where they're from. And the only way that happens is if they have the control of that canal. And this is a long since thought out deal. This doesn't even count what's going on in Bolivia with the natural gas that the Chinese have already pretty much claimed for their own. See, and this is one of the big problems that I have with those who say that the current administrator is some intelligent, thoughtful prophet of a guy. Even if you don't, and I don't agree with Maduro, I don't agree with the way he sees the world, I don't agree with, definitely not as vice president, but to come out and take the positions that you have, seeing what's the U.S. needs an access to cheap oil. We get a ton from Canada. We could have benefited greatly from having a friendly relationship with Venezuela. They say, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. We should have kept Venezuela a lot closer than we have. And not gotten into this pissing contest, for lack of a better term, and do it. These sanctions are going to come back to bite us because they don't work. They don't work anymore, not like they used to. Because, and here is a great article, I would recommend everybody go read this. This is from Zero Hedge. This goes back to, this is September 14th of this year. It's a few months old. But it pretty much breaks it down, just bullet point, of why this isn't going to work with Venezuela. Because of their ability, because there's Iran and Russia and China have been hoarding gold. And when they stop taking U.S. dollar and creating this cryptocurrency that the leader of Venezuela, I've got it over here, just created. He's creating, and he's using his own country's oil reserves to back it. People are saying, well, this isn't going to work because how can it not? It can't be transferred. they can rewrite the worth of the oil in gold. And then once it's transferred from the barrels of oil into the gold, then it's marketable. And that's what's going to make this actually end up working. This is what they're not telling you. And boy, I tell you what, folks, when this goes down, and, you know, this is a history. This is why this is such a great article. I'm going to go back to this. It shows, you know, from, you know, going all the way back to the 1400s, how this has been a cyclical thing. And what they're saying is going to come. And how, you know, being in possession, physical possession of things like oil in South America, Venezuela and Bolivia are going to be two of the most powerful countries in the next 20 to 25 years. And with the surging of the, what they call the African, I know this sounds strange, but the African middle class, they're building their new consumer society over there. And they're going to keep this all in South America. This is all going to be literally south of the equator. And we are going to be left behind if we don't get a different attitude from our leadership. So, anyway, Zero Hedge has this article here. If you could just Google oil rich Venezuela stops accepting dollars. You know, this is actually just the search for the picture here. Hold on. You can go to Columbia Reports and see the breakdown of how they see the world differently than we do because of their basis on the opposition of this man, Richard Dawkins. Never cared for him much myself personally. Pan Am Post, Venezuela running out of fuel. And of course, I think everybody's probably heard about the new Petro currency. So anyway, thank you very much. 12 minutes, a little longer than we normally go, but like, share, subscribe. Thank you very, very much, everyone, for the support. I really appreciate it, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.